My dear brother James Cone. Words fail, any language falls short. Yes, he was a world historical figure in contemporary theology, no doubt about that. Towering prophetic figure engaging in his mighty critiques and indictment of contemporary Christendom from the vantage point of the least of these, no doubt about that. But all I think he would want us to view him through the lens of the cross and the blood at the foot of that cross. So I want to begin with an acknowledgement that James Cone was an exemplary figure in a tradition of a people who've been traumatized for 400 years but taught the world so much about healing, terrorized for 400 years and taught the world so much about freedom, hated for 400 years and taught the world so much about love and how to love. James Cone was a love warrior with an intellectual twist, rooted in gut-bucket Jim Crow Arkansas, but ended up at the top of the theological world, but was never seduced by the idols of the world. That's who we talking about. That's who's in that coffin right there. And oh, he loved us so. And I loved him, so I'd take a bullet for him. And he'd take a bullet for me, even as we were dancing them get out of the way, because we wanted to be together. But there's no James Cone without Lucy and Charlie. You're absolutely right, Brother Chris. You turn to that last paragraph of acknowledgments in his great Cross and the Lynching Tree, a text that will last for as long as there's an American empire shot through with white supremacy and predatory capitalism and homophobia and transphobia and patriarchy too. That's the kind of prophetic voice we're talking about. My brother Wheelock understands that. But what does he say in that acknowledgement? He says, I got to acknowledge Lucy. I got to acknowledge Charlie, because their amazing love and their wonderful humor created a happy home, and a happy home that kept us from hating anybody. That's an echo of Emmett Till's mother. I don't have a minute to hate. I'll pursue justice for the rest of my life. That's an echo of John Coltrane's Love Supreme. It's an echo of Toni Morrison's Beloved. It's an echo of the love-soaked essays of James Baldwin. James Cone stands in a tradition of a people, a great people, with a grand tradition. An AME church there, the Macedonian AME church there on the Jim Crow side, the chocolate side of Beard in Arkansas, taught that little Negro genius something. He was already fortified before he got to Union Theological Seminary. He had been shaped, he had been molded, he had been challenged, he had been unquestioned, and he stood tall. He stood tall. He said, I've got something to say to the world. And I don't say it on my own. I don't say it on my own. What do I say? Oh, like the Isley Brothers' Caravan of Love, a falling in love with truth, and the condition of truth is always to allow suffering to speak. A falling in love with goodness, keeping track of the evil. He begins with white supremacy. He wrestles with white supremacy, but he always connected it to others, even if it took him a little while to get there. How come? Because we got too many black folk loving everybody but black people. He said, I'm going to start with black people. Then I'm going to get to the others. Nothing wrong with that. That's who he was, but he had been shaped already by his father. Turn to page 21 in his autobiography, My Soul Looks Back, and Charlie told him, let me tell you something, James. He said, you see, I'll never allow your mother to work in the White House, so I know about sexual violation. I know about harassment. I don't have that much money. I'm only making $1,000 a year, but I'm going out to the woods every day, and I'm not accepting a penny. Let me tell you something, little James. Don't you ever sell your integrity. Don't you ever allow anybody to buy your integrity. You stand tall even if you broke as the Ten Commandments financially, because you got a joy that the world didn't give you and the world can't take away. That's exactly what he said. So when he talked about the Charlie Cone inside of me, that's the Sankofa that our black nationalist brothers and sisters understand. You better not stand up and move forward till you connected to the best of what has gone into you. Because the highest standards have been set by those who are dead. We just the quick. The question is, will our lives in any way be connected to the afterlife of our brother Cone as he moves on the other side of the Jordan? And I'm going to talk, well, I know you're going to talk about the other side of the Jordan, no, brother. Because James Cone wasn't just an academic theologian. He lived life or death. His theology was grounded in the cry of black blood, the wailing from black suffering, the moans and groans of black hurt and black pain, and somehow trying to convince us not just to have the courage, but the fortitude. Nazi soldier can be courageous and still be a thug. Fortitude connects magnanimity and greatness of character. That's what we're looking at when we see James Cone. And oh, I want to tell the children of Michael, Charlie, and Crystal, and Robin that your father was a great man based on biblical criteria. He served, he sacrificed for the least of these. He tried to hold up the bloodstained banner with a level of spiritual nobility and moral royalty already enacted by Lucy, already enacted by Charlie, already enacted by the best of his church. And by the time he began to interact with vanilla brothers and sisters, he was misunderstood, he was misconstrued. Just because he's mad and enraged because he's focusing on a sin doesn't make him a hater. He had charitable Christian hatred. He hated the sin but still tried to love the sinner. And the problem is so easy to look at black folk. How come they so mad? How come they so angry? Well, if your children were treated that way, if your children going to jail, your children dealing with decrepit education, you'd be upset. You don't expect us to be upset. James Cone said, let me tell you something right now. He said, I'm not one of those Negroes who's afraid and scared and intimidated. I'm going to tell you the truth. And I'm going to talk about the suffering of black people. And he always acknowledged the prophetic white brothers and sisters like Donald Shriver, Tom Driver, Christopher Morse, William Horndon, his thesis advisor, Lester Scherer, and Brother Ellsberg, any white brother and sister who approached him as a human being had a chance to experience his tenderness. Brother Johnson knows what I'm talking about. Experience his sweetness, but he was still on fire. And that's what we need these days. We need the spirit of the tradition that produced James Cone in the younger generation, not just on fire, but putting love and justice at the center of it, and most importantly, willing to take a risk. His discipline, unbelievable. Black Power and Theology, 69. Here comes the Black Theology Liberation in 70. Here comes the Spirit in the Blues in 72. Here comes God of the Oppressor in 75. Gayward Wilmore and him, I can see him right now putting together Black Theology documentary history. Here comes My Soul Looks Back. Here comes For My People. Here comes Speaking the Truth. Here comes Martin and Malcolm. Christians, if you don't understand the genius of Malcolm X, go back to the cross. Go back to the cross. That's what he was telling us. Mark Ridley Thomas knows what I'm talking about. That's what it is to be on fire. He's still on fire in the coffin. It's just that the worm's gonna get his body, but his spirit will be strong. It will be transfigured. It will be transformed. We will never forget our brother. Let's live our lives in such a way that we remain in the same tradition our brother Cone does.